focus on making money and not on wasting your time and working really hard. So we've got to prioritize. Today we're going to be using a phrase I'm stealing from our local insurance expert, Mr. James Jenkins, the RGA, the revenue generating activity, and how you can prioritize your day to make sure that the actions you're taking now are going to lead to a check in your bank account tomorrow. Stick around. What's up, everybody? Not much, man. It was a wild night last night for those that missed out on the Facebook followings. Got a phone call about 1 o'clock in the morning from our creative director here, Trey Young. He's like, hey, just want to let you know the studio's full of smoke. Oh, wow, I didn't hear about this. I was like, here, I didn't know this. What's that? I don't know if you noticed when he came up, the doors propped open. Yeah, I got a phone call about 1 o'clock in the morning, so I made a trip up to the office, and Trey Young sitting outside in the car. He turned all the breakers off in the electrical panel and came in, and the place was full of smoke. So it's been an interesting night. What happened? We still have not pinpointed the exact cause of the smoke. That's a mystery right now. So we're digging in deep on that to figure out what was causing it and figure out what we need to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Well, we're not dead, so that's good. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry, I'm looking on my phone. I was trying to look for, I thought I had screenshotted it, but last week I got probably 10 people that reached out to me through DMs or in our Creative Cash Flows Facebook group. Had a couple of people post on there who said that last week was the best episode that they had seen, and they were like, man, it just felt like you were just talking directly to me. Like, that is the problem. That is what I've been running into. And the cool part about that, the reason I bring that up is I was trying to give shout outs because I know 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them, the day of that show, texted me through DM or on the group or whatever, said, this is what I needed to hear. I got to working. I downloaded a list off of Propelio, and I've got my first appointment tomorrow.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I love hearing that kind of information.
How cool is that?
That's amazing.
And so one of the dudes posted this to our CCF mentors, like the Creative Cash Flow group, and then he had 2 people reply back that they were inspired to. Same exact story. That we had 2 more appointments get set for people just based off of that. So, guys, if y'all are seeing successes from things that were nothing makes us more pumped about doing this education side of things. We're giving away real information that we've spent millions of dollars and hundreds and thousands of hours formulating. Nothing keeps us more motivated than knowing that you're finding success out of that, because this is that's what it's all about. Our existence up here is to make sure that you guys are getting where you need to go in your career, because as Daniel put it, and I steal this phrase all the time, don't judge me by the millions I've made, judge me by the millionaires I've made.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because, I mean, it's so much of the world has turned their focus to how much can I make, and not really focused on how much can we make. And there's a big difference between the two, and I'm not going to get deep in the weeds on that, but I mean, it's a big shift in mindset of we, not me. One of the things that I saw Dave Chappelle, I think it was actually Ryan Harper that mentioned Dave Chappelle on this, was he said, you know, like, for those that don't know the Dave Chappelle background, like, the guy was making millions and millions and millions with Comedy Central, and he got to a point in life where he was doing pretty damn good, and they offered him like another $100 million contract, and he turned it down, and he walked away. I don't know if many people know about that, but when he was asked about that, he said something along the lines of, like, there is a point of diminishing return when it comes to revenue. There's a point in time where your basic needs have been met and your aspirational needs have actually been met. And he's like, if I've got 10 million sitting in my bank and all of a sudden I've got 11 million sitting in the bank,
right?
You know, what's happened? I'm still driving the same car, same house, same pool, same food.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really believe in giving back at a point in time where you're able to.
I do too. And I think that that's important too. And we'll do an episode on that. I think that would be a really good idea for us to do, as an episode on community building and what your responsibility should look like as you grow. Because to that point, like, my thing is, nobody needs to make more than $200,000 or $300,000 a year. That's a ridiculous amount of money.
At the point in time you're making $200,000 to $300,000 a year, you've pretty much got your lifestyle met to any point. Anything beyond that is just like, I want more expensive things.
Right.
Like I've already got my $1.5 million house.
Right.
Now I just want a $5 million house.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, most people are pretty content with their $1.5 million house, at least in DFW.
Right.
We're not
Exactly. Yeah, that might be
about-
a trailer in California.
Right.
Same thing with $200,000 or $300,000, whatever that is. You know, our median family income in Texas, I think, is 60. So 200, 300, that's enough. And I adhere to this philosophy. That's not to say that we should not create revenue of more than 200 or 300, but I don't need to bring home more than 200 or 300. And so there's some real legitimate, like, family planning goals that we have for what we're doing with the money past that, right? When I say, again, we're not talking about making 200 or 300, we're talking about bringing home 200 or 300. I view it very strongly that we have a responsibility, and I'm forgive me as I speak Christianese here for a second, but as a believer, even just biblically, you know, talking about Solomon, and people have trouble with the understanding and the reconciliation of, like, oh, the Bible says it's hard for a rich man to get to heaven. Well, guess what? A lot of the guys, Solomon was the richest man in the world, right? Like, there's more theology behind that than what's just at face value. But what I'm getting at, and by the way, this is a complete caveat. By the way, you should understand that when that was written, being rich meant somebody else made your clothes and somebody else made your food, and you had a house to live in. Guess what, 21st century America? When was the last time you made the shirt you're wearing and you made you know what I mean? Like, we are all rich, right? In that context. But what I'm getting at is you've got to have some planning with your family. I do view it as my responsibility as a contributing member of society, as a believer in Christ, of having been given given talents that can make more money. It's our responsibility to do that, right? It's my responsibility to do that, and my role of creating that kind of revenue isn't necessarily, hey, you know, here's a gift of talent that creates a lot of revenue for you so that you can go buy a Lamborghini. It is that we all have a role in community and in the church global and in whatever. We all have our role. If my role is that I'm the guy that can make a bunch of money and pour that into other areas that need that money, that's my role, right? We take home what we can take home, and we give what we can give. But to get there, we have to clearly define the activities that generate that revenue.
So what revenue generating activities should we employ to start moving our way to the path of that 200,000 to 300,000 a year? Because I had some very key shifts in my daily life whenever I first got started that totally transitioned my business, because I got stuck into the busy work.
Yep.
And I had a couple come to Jesus meetings with some mentors, and honestly, the biggest one was my wife. You know, like sitting down next to the wife, and the wife's like, "Hey, where's that money coming from?"
You told me there was going to be money from this, right?
So, like, what were some of those big things for you just getting started out that really just kind of shifted your mindset, that just like, or did you even need one? Like, were you one of the people that came out straight out the gate and like, boom, I know what I need to do?
Yeah, so this is a phenomenal, I love this topic because, again, like I saw I've never gotten as much good feedback as we did last week. So if you haven't watched last week's episode, after you get done with this one, go back and watch last. We're kind of expounding today on a certain section that we talked on last week. The first segment that I'd like to talk about here is what's going to lead in most applicably to that question, because that question is the question that you guys all need answered. That question, the specifics of what do we do? How the heck do we do this? That's what we're looking for. What I've realized, and I'd like to know this today too, I'm going to start asking this more and more commonly, because I want to know, again, you guys need to understand you're the hero. You are the center of attention in this. We may be the guys on the camera, but we are only here to help you get where you need to go. So if we don't
emphasize that.
Go ahead.
I really do want to emphasize that, because we are not here to say, oh, Grant Kemp's the best person in the world, Daniel Moore's the best person in the world. Our goal here is to see as many of y'all that are on there watching the show right now to walk away from this saying, I now have a new something to apply into my business.
Right.
And if we're not accomplishing that, we need to see some feedback from you. And if we are accomplishing that, also we need to see some feedback from you, because y'all do not get to see the other side of the camera. And that is, we're just looking out into oblivion here. There's nothing going on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Hopefully at least not any smoke. So all of that to be said, like, give us some feedback as to what's going on and how we're improving your business and your life. we're going to show you a real quick response as to what's going on over there.
I'm going to upload this photo to our comments here. This is what we see. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to do on the first segment here, before we hit break, is let's talk a little bit about mindset, right? Oh, I'm sorry. The reason I set that up is I want to know what stage you guys are in of your career, okay? So I define stage 1 as fewer than 10 deals.
Okay.
I define stage 2, and this is kind of a loose definition. This is just purely like I'm trying to I define stage 2 as you've done 10 to 25 deals. Stage 3 is kind of that 25 to 75 mark. Stage 4 is like 75 and above, right? In your total career, not this year, your total career, have you done fewer than 10? Have you done 10 to 25? Have you done 25 to 75? Have you done 75 plus? Let me know. Are you in stage 1, 2, 3, or 4 of your career? Because again, as we are, shifting these topics to make it most applicable, it does you no good if I give you techniques that only matter if you're in stage 8. If you're in stage 1, that's cool to know. That's not going to make you any money, right? So we want to know where you're at. Please comment down here if you're in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, whatever, so that we can shift our conversation to be most applicable to you. But the thing that I'm finding is most commonly, we've got a lot of people that are in stage 1. A lot of folks who have done fewer than 10 deals who are trying to get their feet under them, right? In stage 1, there's some very important mindset philosophies that you've got to have. And everything should always be starting with why. Everything should start with why. I've said this many times before. I don't care what you do. I care why you do what you do, right? So
there was an argument behind that was brought to me by Gary Harper, and he took it from yet again another source. But it's not really the why that you should start with. It's the what. The what is what provides you the why.
It's the who.
It's the who. There you go. Who are you doing this for? Why? And then the why follows in from that. But let's move forward with that. Like, why are we doing this? So, get away from the philosophy.
Why are you doing this? When you decided to get into real estate, what was the aha moment that finally put you over the edge? Okay? Can you think about that moment for you? What was your aha moment? Did you? Because I think most people who've been successful in this industry have that. They can look back and they can look at that one moment. They may have had a lot of ideas, but there was one thing in particular that they were like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do this. What was yours?
I remember the day clearly. I was constantly being a student of the trade and going out there and trying to gather as much information. And I was staying busy every day. There was not a day I didn't work from the time I got up till the time I went to bed. And I was staying very busy, but I wasn't making a lot of money at the start. Like I went my first 6 to 7 months just kind of spinning my wheels. And I followed through from that. And my wife sat down with me one morning, and I was always just unorganized, hence, kind of a background of who I am, unorganized and just not really making any traction. And she sat down with me and she started talking about my day. And she's like, what's going on? What's happening here? And what I found was happening is I would first start out my day doing what I wanted to do. It's like, all right, my desk isn't organized, and that makes my brain messed up, so I'll organize my desk to start out with. And then after I do that, I'd go through and I'd check all my emails. And then after checking all my emails, I'd kind of kick back and I'd figure out what else I wanted to get done for the day. And through that, my emails would throw something else in my loop. Oh yeah, I needed to do that. I needed to do this. And then I get a phone call. And then I get a text message. Oh, do you want to go meet and talk about business? Okay, well, let's go meet and talk about business. That sounds like something good to do. And revenue wasn't coming in. Well, she sat me down with a little spiral notebook. I remember it, just a little bitty spiral notebook. And she said, every time an idea comes to the table that needs to be done, write it down. And once you write it down, start out your day writing that list down and reviewing your list from the day before. And then she said, let's go ahead and organize that into 3 columns. Things that have to be done. They're essentially what we're going to call revenue generating activities. The things that I need to get done, because what you have to get done and what you need to get done are not the same things. And then what I wanted to get done. So every morning I'd write down all of the things that were not completed from the day before. I'd bring them over into a new list. And then I'd create a new list starting out the day of what has to get done, what I need to get done, and what I want to get done. And then I would start knocking my list out in that order. The things I have to get done, And then if anything took my attention, such as an email, phone call, text message, that would just get thrown into there. And unless it was something I can get done in like 5 minutes, it didn't get touched. And if it wasn't important, 5 minutes didn't get touched. But everything that got classified into the have to get dones were essentially revenue generating activities. What's going to make me money? And then the need to get dones were a totally different process, and that was need to get dones are like, I need to file my taxes. But if I don't file my taxes today, that doesn't mean I'm not getting paid today. You know, so that's how I kind of broke it down. And I remember that day very clear, and it really shifted my business from that point.
Well, and
forward.
I love that Miranda came up with the issues list from Traction. You know, like she just like intuitively knew one of the more advanced like business philosophies of how you can itemize and objectively look at your day in a way that's going to create revenue and traction for your company, right? So that's a very practical way of once you're in the business, once you're doing what you guys are doing, you're watching this video, therefore I know you're ready to go, right? That is a very practical way to just start out and just writing it down and saying, have to do, need to do, want to do, right? But let's rewind a little bit. Let's rewind a year or two before that. What was the thing, the aha moment that made you decide, yes, I'm going to buy real estate? What was the thing, what made that decision happen for you? What was when you said, I'm going to get into real estate, you said, I'm going to get into real estate because of why?
It was Real Estate Advantages, written by Robert Kiyosaki and co-authored by Sharon Lechter. Like, that was the book that shifted my mindset. I've never read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I have read a lot of the Kiyosaki books. And the very first one I ever read was...
plenty of... You could have bought like 17 million Rich Dad Poor Dad books.
I probably could have by now. Like, you can get them on Amazon now for like 99 cents. There's been millions and millions of them copies sold.
Which, by the way,
that was the book that got me going.
As a side note to that, never stop learning. My business partner, Ronnie Walker, I learned the other day that last year, if you look at his books, his like QuickBooks books, he spent over $10,000 in books.
Wow.
That is insane. And he read them.
Books, that's hard to imagine, because like a book, let's say 20 bucks,
like,
5 for 100 bucks.
Dude. I know.
5 for 100 bucks, that's 50 books for 1,000. Wow.
The dude has spent a ton of, you know what, maybe I need to adjust that and say it wasn't last year. Maybe it's just period. Maybe it's just period. That would make more sense.
Okay, because that's 1,000 books to pop off in a year.
Yeah, no, that, I take that back. He's smart, he ain't that smart. But either way, I haven't spent $10,000 in books. Right. You know what I mean? Like, read. This is a guy who's making millions of dollars in real estate and spending and has a budget line item in his books for books, right?
Books changed my life.
So like, you read Robert Kiyosaki's The Real Estate, what was it called?
Real Estate Advantages.
So what in that book stood out to you that made you decide to get into real estate?
Essentially the ability to get in essentially with little to no capital and transition into millions. And he laid out a fairly simplified path to how it was realistic, and it was written in such a way that a layman could understand, like, okay, this is possible. And it inspired me to accept that my previous background wouldn't inhibit me from moving forward. Yeah. And just that shift mentally of saying it can be done made it become a reality for me.
And so you realized that it could be done. And guys, I want you to comment too. I want to know, what was your aha moment? What was the thing that made you decide, I'm going to go buy real estate? Right? Here's what I'm trying to get at. Your decision to go buy real estate wasn't made from reading the book and saying, wow, that guy hustled. That guy worked his ass off for 20 hours a day. I want to do that. Right?
Right.
Your inspiration for buying that book was the financial result of what all of that work did for him, right? The financial result of the real estate was, at its core, that deciding factor to get into real estate, was it not?
Yeah, like I obviously got into it because there was wealth building potential involved with it. You know, at that point in time, I was working as an air conditioning mechanic, controls tech, electrician, something along those lines, and my future was really capped at a national average salary, and like, I didn't want that to be the rest of my life. So seeing that there were ways for the average person to get out of, as Kiyosaki would have called it, the rat race, it was very inspiring to me because I saw opportunity that I'd never seen before. And it was that exposure to opportunity of a life that would have otherwise been unknown to me was very intriguing.
So here's what I can hope to bring to you guys today, right? What I can hope to bring to you guys today is kind of one of the things that we talked about last week and what I want to continue to harp on, which is we sometimes over-romanticize the process and forget about the result.
Okay.
Right? And so what happens is you get these Facebook famous guys who take the photos of them getting up at 4 a.m, or they take the photo of them still at the office at 9 p.m, or whatever that is. And that's what gets romanticized. Now, the process is important. I'll take some Jason Garrettisms that, you focus on the process, right? Like the process matters. The process matters. But the revenue generating activity is the priority in that process, because you didn't get into real estate investing to work hard. You didn't get into real estate investing to buy a bunch of houses. You got into real estate investing to make a bunch of money from houses, right? Or real estate, I should say. So here's a real quick litmus test for you, because you may, oftentimes, people in stage 1, 2, and 3, and I fell into this as well, right? And I don't know if you fell into this either. We'll see. I shared this. This is not, I'm not just like, oh, you. Like, this was me. I had this view in my head of, if I buy enough houses, everything will be okay. Okay? Now, fortunately for me, that turned out to be true. But I was buying houses conservatively while being aggressive. We're not risk adverse, we're risk aware.
I like that.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Josh Dees actually gave me that phrase. So in my last Creative Executives Mastermind, we're like talking over all this crazy stuff. I do crazy things to like subvert, is that right? To avoid risk. And one of the students was like, man, you are like super risk averse. And Josh was like, man, he's not risk averse, he's risk aware. And I was like, I love that phrase, because I'll risk everything, and I have several times. But I'm not going to risk everything if I don't have to, right?
Right.
Like, I know what I'm... So anyway, here's a real quick litmus test. If you're like, nah, Grant, like I want to buy a bunch of houses. Do you want 100 houses that each make you $5? Or do you want 3 houses that make you $10,000 a month each?
Obvious answer there. And I like that you're bringing that up, because I did fall in that same boat. I just kept looking at trying to push a fancy number of houses. Mm-hmm. And it was actually Will Crozier that shifted my mindset.
I'm glad you bring him up.
Will Crozier was a very pivotal point in that mindset. And he kept saying, man, you need to add another 0 to every deal you do, and you need to reduce your, this was his word, you need to reduce your transactional volume, because it includes transactional risk. Mm-hmm. Every time you put your name on a piece of paper, it's opening you up to lawsuits. Mm-hmm. You need to reduce your transactional volume so that way you can mitigate your transactional risk, which means every deal you do needs to make you millions. And if that deal doesn't make you millions, you're focusing your mind in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm. And I think, that's, and this is why I want to have these conversations with you, is that we get really enamored, and I brought this up last episode, so if you haven't watched last episode, go watch last week's, but we talk about it like where there's a lot of things that investors in their first few stages of their career say as a bragging point that investors that are deeper into the career understand that is actually a result of them not having a good business, right? So a bragging point is, I do 70 houses a year, right? Which a more advanced real estate investor says, that's cool. You need 70 houses in your portfolio, period, to make $10,000 a month for the rest of your life, right? Mm-hmm. If you have to do 70 houses a year to get the income you're looking for, you're doing it wrong. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. If you have to keep doing 70 houses every year to keep your business alive, you don't have a very good business. And so that's one of those, like, you're saying it as a bragging point, but it's actually selling you out as like not really setting some stuff up that you could have been setting up, right?
I believe so. So let's move that forward. Let's go into the break. Yeah. Let's take a look at that. Coming back from the break, we'll start breaking down some of the RGAs that we really need to be doing. I want to take a moment before we do go to break, say hi to my wonderful kids, Tyla and Zyla, my wonderful wife, Miranda. Thank you all for being out there. I love y'all. Tyla, Daddy's saying hi. But moving forward from there, let's go ahead and take a break unless you got something to pop
No,
in
absolutely.
before
This
then.
is where I wanted to go into break and come back because we talked about mindset here. I want you guys to be very aware of why you got into this business. Did you get into this business to buy houses, or did you get into this business to make money? Right?
It's the making money part. You know, like if somebody went out there right now and said you can sell popcorn and make millions, everybody would be out there trying to sell popcorn right now. Like, so real estate does have its roots in the ground with being a very good vehicle for creating wealth. So moving forward from there, what are the activities we need to do to make wealth? And we'll talk about that coming right back on the other side of this break.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses. Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at creativecashflow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. creativecashflow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only Welcome back, y'all. So we spent some time talking about our mindset, talking about the fact that you got into real estate because you wanted to make money, not because you wanted to do volume. You know, you're bringing up a good point. Who was it you were saying?
Steve Trang. So Steve Trang runs an amazing podcast, Real Estate Disruptors. Got some really solid key players playing in on that show. He's bringing in Don Costa. My bad if I messed
That's the name
your
I
name
couldn't
up.
remember. Yeah, it was Don.
So he's bringing him in.
I've seen it.
And the title of the show is like, I added wholesaling to my business and I generated an extra 1.2 million in revenue this year. So Don has the key thing in mind, and that is one of the things I always ask when somebody's like, "Oh man, my goal is to do 100 deals this year." I don't laugh at them, but I kind of chuckle at myself because I know that that's a rookie move. I always focus on I'm going to net this much this year.
Right.
And so like I'd rather do 1 deal and net $1 million than do 100 deals and net 400,000. There's a big difference.
There is. So we've got to focus on that dollar amount. And we always, you know, again, if you have proper, and this is the advantage that you guys have to like this kind of like digital mentoring relationship that we've got, is that you're getting the insights to people who've already kind of had to dig through the mud and figure out that this is a problem that we faced and can hopefully help this out for you. But what are our RGAs? What is the thing that you need to be doing to make money? That gets really
depends on your stage.
What's that?
It really depends on your stage.
Yes, yeah.
Because it will shift as you move forward. When you're day one, boots on the ground, that you've got your team sitting around you, which includes your left and right hands and the 2 feet that you're attached to, you've got a lot of things that you're going to have to defer on. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to want to do that need to be done, and you're going to have to ignore, because there's only going to be, you got your 3 columns: have to do's, these are mine; have to do's, need to do's, want to do's. And the have to do's are the RGAs. Well, that means there's going to probably be 3 or 4 days that go by where nothing gets done on these other columns, because the revenue is the only important thing. While everything else needs to get done, it doesn't need to get done unless you make money. Because if you don't make money, you're not in business.
Yeah, the phrase that inspired last week's show was from Ronnie, my partner, who said, no business has ever gone out of business because of lack of systems. Every business that's ever gone out of business went out of business because of lack of sales, right? And I love that mentality. So what we've got to understand, and again, I mentioned this in the intro here, I'm stealing this RGA phrase from James Jenkins. I had a breakfast with him once a year or so ago, and he threw it, and I was like, ooh, I like that. That is very good. That is an RGA is something that's quick and easy to throw out to your team. It depends on what stage you're in, and this is why we asked what stage you guys were in. And if we've got more people that have tuned in and that kind of stuff. So tell us, are you in stage 1, fewer than 10 deals, stage 2, 10 to 25 deals, stage 3, 25 to 75, stage 4 plus, so that we can kind of, when you're in stage 1, it's you, yourself, and Irene. You are ready to, and this is these are the stages of your career more so than the stage of like the real estate cycles that we're referring to here. But we got a my bad.
Oops.
The stage of your career there, when you've done fewer than 10 deals, you don't have the money to hire staff. You don't have the money to have all of these teams going out there and doing stuff. So let me pose some questions to you. If you're in stage 1 of your career, is calling around and spending all day finding the right attorney to close your deals and the right title company, is that an RGA?
I consider that to be busy work, because if I find the right attorney, I'm not going to get paid. If I find the right title company, I'm not going to get paid. So neither of those two activities will be doing anything to produce me income. So no, I would not consider those to be RGAs. And that needs to be the qualifier that you're running through your head when you're making out that list, is if I get that title attorney, does that write a check?
Yep.
Like, it's great to have, but if it doesn't write a check, it's not an RGA.
Here's one way that I'm going to rephrase the RGA thing that can hopefully help you guys kind of differentiate this out. Because similarly, like, it's all about starting with why, right? Gary Harper pointed out a very astute part of that. I've had students who have trouble figuring out why, and I haven't, and why wasn't really hard for me to figure out, because I kind of, my why is a who, but I just kind of made that. But he pointed out, like, a lot of people, himself included, that have trouble figuring out what their why is, it's because it's not about a why, it's about a who, right? So let's rephrase RGA a little bit. Let's figure out what a revenue generating activity is. And here's what I want you guys to be very tuned into. The thing that you need to be doing is getting a signed piece of paper from a seller that says that you get to buy their house and taking that thing to closing.
I just messed up. Getting a title company is a revenue generating activity. Getting the attorney to close it is a revenue generating activity, depending upon where you're at in that cycle. Revenue generating activity number 1 is getting the contract.
Right.
But once I've got that contract, the next day, my revenue generating activity is finding the title company. It is finding that. So I want to make sure that that's clear for people that are watching, because it's going to shift from day to day. And I can't just say that that's ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you bring that up, because this is, when I say that, because I was looking for no, right? I don't think that's an RGA, because if you don't have an attorney or a title company, that means you haven't had a contract. Right?
Right.
So, like, you need to go get that contract. If you don't already have that team built, you don't need to spend time calling around and building that team. You need to spend time getting somebody to sign a piece of paper that says they're going to sell you a house. Then your next step, which becomes the RGA at that point in time, is finding how you're going to close that up. Right?
So let's bring that back to stage 1. And for those stage 1 people out there, for stage 1 being you've done like 10 deals or less, or let's just say you're stage 0 and you haven't done your deal yet, because there's a lot of people in here that are going to be watching and seeing that. Your revenue generating activity from the time you get up till the time you go to bed 7 days a week needs to be figuring out that process to getting a contract, because in this business, you do not get paid until you contract. So you have to be doing all of your effort behind getting a contract, not building the network, not building out the CRMs, not building out all the processes as we've talked about. You need to be getting your ass out there and putting yourself in front of as many people as you possibly can to contract a deal. Because if you're not contracting something, you're not getting paid.
Right.
But the second you do that for stage 0 people, your next day, your priorities are going to shift a little bit. We're going to need to go into, all right, now that I've got the contract, I don't have the team. Well, now's the day that your revenue generating activity is find the damn team. Right. And then as you're moving that forward, then your daily activity, because you're going to be the lone wolf there, is going to be a mixture of continuing to find more contracts, because you will start seeing dips in your revenue if you stop that activity, because that one has to always go on. Just because you got paycheck number 1 in your pocket doesn't mean that if you stop doing that revenue generating activity for the next 3 weeks while you close, that the next paycheck's already lined up. You got to keep them paychecks lined up. But now you're going to have to start finding yourself pivoting constantly daily from keeping the deals you already have flowing and getting more deals in the pipeline. And if you're not doing that simultaneously, you're going to find waves of income that'll allow you to push down.
Because that is the fear. That is the thing that you don't realize you're going to do, and you're going to do it, and it's going to screw your business up. I see it time and time again. Is somebody goes out and gets a contract, and they get so involved on getting that contract to close that they stop sending marketing, they stop going on appointments, they stop doing, so then they get a check, but then they've got nothing in the pipeline left, right? So here's how I want to rephrase RGAs, and then we're going to go, let's dive more into that. Segment 3, we're going to talk a little bit more about how do you download these lists? What should you be doing with those lists? How do you get to the seller, right? Like we can talk about some practicality on that side of things. As this side, we're kind of pointing out more of the generalities of what is your logic behind how to decide what is and is not an RGA, because RGAs are dependent on the stage that you're in, right? Another way to think about RGAs is what I want you to do is I want you to separate wins from waypoints, okay? A win. What is a win?
Cash in a check.
Cash in a check. Okay.
Getting a contract.
Getting a contract. There are wins and waypoints. You've got some very simple wins. I'm going to say that getting a win is a contract, even though really getting a win is taking that contract to closing.
I'd say getting a contract is getting like that first down.
Right,
like if
right.
you're driving the ball
Yeah.
and you're sitting there in your third play and you've got, or your fourth play, however that works, and it's ride or die right now.
Yeah.
You're about to lose if you don't get it. That contract is getting you the next touchdown, the next piece. I'm not a football guy.
You don't get to continue the drive without that waypoint, right? Or without that win. So that's a win, that's a waypoint. That's a win that I want you to, because here's what I don't want. Here's what happens. Here's the thing that stage 1 investors struggle with, is that investing in real estate is effing hard. And people don't talk about that enough. People don't, as much as I respect, some of the guys that I hear speak, and I won't, to not name names. So we had a presentation that I saw the other day. It was a phenomenal presentation. We got some of the best. I mean, this was information that doesn't get given elsewhere. It was very good. So if you saw this presentation, you know what I'm talking about. Please understand that before I say this. But I was really bothered by that presentation because he kept saying, "Well, I can teach you how to make $1 million in real estate. That's easy." It's not easy. It's not. That's bullshit.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yep. Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So,
yep.
That really bothers me, and because it's not. And guys like that are what cause people to spend $30,000 and then get burned out. Because
and it's also guys like that flashing Lambos and private jets and all that, because they're in it to
They're not bragging. They're not bragging.
Yeah.
God. When God is a marketing piece for you, anyway, whatever.
Never mind.
So what I'm getting at, though, and again, I want to, with all respect, because that was there was information that doesn't get given out that is truly great information, but it is not easy. Those flashings of Lambos, those flashings of the watch, that's easy. It's not. So when you get in and you start seeing that it's hard, gosh, you need a win. Man, you need a win to keep going. You know what I mean? So what happens is your brain goes into this like mode of just searching for wins, right? And I also want to reference, we did an episode last December on entrepreneurial depression, right? Which you are going to face. You are going to get depressed. It's going to happen. I'm telling you that right now. This ain't easy, and you're going to face depression. Don't you want to be an investor, right? But understand that, right? So what happens is your brain is just searching for endorphins, and you're saying, why the hell am I doing this? This is so hard. They told me it was going to be easy. It's been 4.5 months and I don't have a contract. First of all, you're probably not going to get a contract for 6 to 9 months after you decide to get into the business. Second of all, you're probably not going to get multiple contracts in 1 month until 12 or 13 months into the business. Third of all, you're probably not going to be consistently getting multiple contracts a month until about your 15th month in the business. Stop this bull crap of, I can go win tomorrow. It's just not likely. Now, if you do, cool.
It can be done. People
it can
do
be
it.
done.
There are things that'll leapfrog you. Like if somebody comes in immediately and starts mentoring underneath somebody that's already got solid business systems in place, it does give you the opportunity to move forward.
Right.
But there are still a lot of F-ups you're going to have to take to get there, because to get those, let's say 20 contracts a month is easy.
Right.
Well, in a lot of ways, it can be. Whenever I take a look into considering that versus like working the next 30 years of my life, let's just take a look at that. But you are unlikely to ever hit that. You are going to hit speed bumps. You're going to have to take mindset shifts. You're going to have to take daily activity shifts. You're going to have to learn and completely change a lot of your core philosophies to adapt to understanding that is possible.
Right.
Some people are able to knock that off in the first 2 to 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Most people can't.
And
most people cannot.
And I want to reiterate that. What everybody just heard us say is, I should wait. I should accept that my first contract isn't going to happen in 6 to 9 months, but I'm going to get it next week. Stop. Get into this business understanding it's going to take you 9 months to get your first contract. Therefore, if it takes you 9 months to get your first contract, you understand you're part of the 98% of the industry, right? And if you do get it earlier, freaking A, that's awesome. I love to see it. But if you're starting from scratch with zero everythings, time flies, we think that it's crazy, you're like, oh man, I got that faster, and then you really think about it, well, actually, I started learning 6 or 8 months ago, I just didn't quit my job until 3 months ago. You know, something like that, right? So what I'm trying to get at is you get into this mode, you get pretzeled up in your brain, you start needing endorphin releases, and you get that endorphin release with busy work. You say, ooh, this Propelio thing is cool. I can make a system that does this and that and the other, and look, I can make my thing tell me how much cash flow I would get from this deal. And you spent 2 days doing that, but that Propelio system is not a seller that can sign a piece of paper that sells you a house. Your win is a signed piece of paper that gets you to the closing table, okay? Waypoints may be finding your team. A waypoint is watching Grant teach me something. A waypoint is the things that it takes setting up. Your win is not downloading the list. That's a waypoint to the win. That is part of the track that it takes to get to that win. So reserve your endorphin releases for the wins, understanding that your waypoints are going to get you there. And that way, when you get that win, go have a beer. Go have a good time. Enjoy that win. But keep the consistency out there and getting things going.
Let's get down into the nuts and bolts. I'm a nuts and bolts guy.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some RGAs.
Yeah, so
What are these?
Let's do that. Let's go to break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the specific RGAs. We're going to talk about how to get, like I said. So what you can gather from what we just stated, what RGAs have we named? Getting a contract, getting to signatures, right? So what are our waypoints to get us to that? We're going to talk about all of what goes into that and how you can practically start your day every day in a very practical manner to shift away from all the cloudiness that happens to trying to decide, is this or is this not an RGA or a waypoint or a win or a whatever. When we come back from break, we're going to take into some specifics of that. We'll see you there.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses? Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at creativecashflow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. creativecashflow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only All right, so welcome back. All right, so we've talked a lot this first 2 segments of just trying to step you away from what Facebook tells you what needs to happen, which is work hard and grind and hustle and rah and post on Facebook that I'm working. Work is not money. Money is money, right? So what do we need to do to get that money, honey?
If you are stage 0, never done a deal before, a big piece to revenue generating activities is going to be get in front of as many sellers as you possibly can to get a contract. You will never be in this business until you do that. There are going to be waypoints, as you've pointed out, that will get you there. Those waypoints are going to be, go out there and consume as much of the Propelio Academy as you possibly can. But I need to make sure everybody out there right now understands the Propelio Academy will not make you money. The Propelio Academy will never make you money. It is an excellent resource of information, but it is the application of that knowledge that creates the income. So you need to be taking and consuming that to start out with, because if you have no clue what to do, you have no way of making money. But that would be step 1, is get that education. But once that education is received, it needs to be applied. One of the things that I heard Brittany Washington say, and I do not know if this is something that she has borrowed from other people or not, but she said knowledge is not power. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge applied is power. So if you're going out there and you're consuming and getting that education, you now need to apply it. And big part of the application is get in front of as many sellers as you possibly can and get to the contract. That is revenue generating activity day one.
So what is the step that somebody, because this is the thing that I hear comment back and forth constantly from people is like marketing, right? They don't know how to market. They don't know. And so what happens is, and this is another thing that you guys need to get away from is, well, let me make this analogy here. In business, as a leader of a company, as a leader in general, 99% of the time, it's not as important what you decide, it's important that you decide. Okay? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
99% of the time, decisiveness is way more important than the decision because both could be right. Maybe you would have made a little bit more money if you decided to do this one versus this one. But if you spend the next 6 months trying to figure out, well, should I do mailers or door knock or phone calls or this or that or the other, that's 6 months of time that you could have been making money. So it's not so important what you decide on. It's not important if you're going to go mailer or door knock or drive for dollars or this. It's important that you say, I need to market. I can drive for dollars. All right, honey, I'll be back later. And you download the Propelio Driving for Dollars app, you get in your freaking car and you go drive. And while you're driving there, you can be thinking about, well, how much would a mailer cost? How much money do I have in my bank account?
Or listening to your podcast or listening to some further education. That's a great way of getting started. Like right now, like if you're dead broke, well, the mailing budgets might not be there for you. If you're dead broke, the ability to skip trace might not be there for you. If you're dead broke, some of those other marketing activities might not be there for you, but you can almost always afford to hop in the car when you're on your way to a different place and take a different route that you wouldn't typically take.
Absolutely.
And so we talked about getting that education. Now we've got to get the contract. Getting the contract is marketing. So go download the Propelio mobile app. It's like $29 a month if you need it. It'll go out there, and as I'm driving for dollars, any property that I see that shows, what are we looking for? We're looking for distressed properties. We're looking for properties that do not fit the neighborhood, that are showing signs of misrepair and not being taken care of. I can just start dropping those pins on the map all day long while I'm driving. Now what do I need to do? I need to contact them. Well, maybe I can start using some free phone lookup services if I don't have the income. Or if I do have the income, you can skip trace them from within the app. I'll skip trace them and call them right there in front of the house. If I'm in front of the house, maybe I can get out there and knock on the door. If I'm knocking on the door and I'm not getting an answer, maybe I can leave a Post-it note on the front door. Maybe I can go to the next door neighbors and knock and say, hey, I was trying to get in touch with the next door neighbor. Do you have any way I can get in contact with them? You've got many different avenues while you're sitting in front of the house. Don't be scared to get out and put yourself and make yourself vulnerable and knock on some doors. Knocking on that door does not get you paid, but it might get you the contract. If I can get that contract and then I can take that, I now need to get that contract closed.
So this is such a great way of thinking about it, because if I can tie this all together for you guys, if you haven't been able to relate this, on your own, I talk about in the first segment, right? Knowing your why, knowing the end, right? When we buy a house, if I can just turn this into a real estate analogy, when we buy a house, just in its simplest form, right? Let's say we're going to wholesale a home. What is it how do we come to, in its simplest form, how do we come to the offer that we're going to put on the contract to our seller?
We need to run some initial due diligence, some high-level understandings of what is this home going to be worth, all fixed up, what is this home currently worth in its present condition, not repaired, and then I'm going to need to figure out what type of repairs do I believe it would need, and I'll take all of that into consideration and I'll come up with my maximum allowable offer.
There you go.
All things that can be done, yet again, from within Propelio.
So what we want to look at here, what I'm pointing out, is that the very first thing he said when I talked about how do I buy this house is what do I sell it for? Right? With absolute clarity, we know our first step only because we have defined our last step. So similarly, here, we're defining our last step as get a contract and take it to closing. If we have a clear view of that last step, it's easy to back into what we need to do about that. Because the problem that most stage 1 and stage 2ers have is they lose sight of that last step. They lose sight of the fact that you buy houses based on what you can sell them for. So therefore, you go into business based off of where you can make your money, right? So we're going to do every action of our day based on a contract. So that doesn't mean you're not going to be busy. I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying don't rah grind. You have to do that. But he just named a bunch of hard work that's going to take a bunch of time, but it was all laser focused on this specific item. Me driving in my car and looking for for houses that are in disrepair and dropping a pin on them is step 1 to getting in touch with somebody who might be able to sign a piece of paper that makes me money, which is step 2 to getting a piece of paper signed that might be able to make money, which is step 3 to taking that piece of paper to a title company and getting it closed, right?
Yes, sir.
As long as we're starting with the end in mind, it really clarifies what we need to do here. Now, you look at that line. You look at that line that happened. You got title company. That's where you get your check. You got taking the contract to title. You got getting the contract. You got reaching out to the seller. You got driving for dollars and dropping your pins, right? Where in there does it say, go to Tuesday night's REI club meetup and talk to another guy that's done apartments and see if apartments are nice?
Never. It doesn't make you money. Like, depending upon your initial acquisition or depending upon your strategy, pick a strategy and stick to it. Pick a strategy and stick to it. But once you have figured that out, repeat that activity until you have won. Do not just start pivoting. Don't go drive for dollars for a week and you spent 6 hours doing it and say, man, driving for dollars just isn't going to work. Maybe I'll start trying mailers.
Absolutely.
And then I'll go out and I'll send out 400 mailers. And then I'm like, well, mailers don't work either. It was a bad list. Let me go to a different list.
Yeah.
I send out another 200 mailers over there. And like, well, I've blown my mailing budget.
Yep.
I'm going to try cold calling now. I now try cold calling and I cold call 400 people and I only get 5 of them to answer the phone. And after 5 of them answer the phone, they all tell me. And then I say, oh, this real estate investing stuff doesn't work. I got ripped off.
Daniel just named how 98% of the people that dropped out of the market last year did their business.
Do not do that. Do not do that. You need to pick a singular vein and stick in that vein until you win. You do not pop off. You do not work because it's going to take you that amount of time, especially if you do not have a seasoned mentor in your corner pushing you in that direction. You're going to take 6, 7, 8, 9 months of grinding it out to figure it up, to get going on that. So you need to get into there.
So in that practical point, right? We're trying to draw your ability. It's a teach a man to fish. I could tell you like some little cheat sheet, like, whatevers, but I've never in my entire career driven for dollars. Not once, personally. I have never in my entire career, not once ever, knocked on a door. And I started without money because there's a difference between should and would. Should you do something versus will you do something are 2 different answers. If you will not drive and knock, don't decide to drive and knock and do it 2 times and then drop off and never do anything again and lose it, right? I went down the road of what I would do, which was marketing to like wholesalers to get their dead leads and then, some mailers and that kind of thing. So, go ahead.
Well, that's why I wanted to put the caveat in there and you're talking, because it did make sense on your side. If your goal starting up front is to network with other wholesalers to source deals, then every single day you need to be putting yourself in with wholesalers. So if your initial upfront activity is like, I want to network with as many wholesalers as I can, you need to go to every meetup every single night all week long for 6 months straight. You will now have expanded your network of wholesalers immensely. If your goal is to co-wholesale, if your goal is to buy from wholesalers, that is your revenue generating activity. Just because we said go drive for dollars doesn't mean that's what you have to do. You need to pick something that gets you to the payday and focus on that like nothing else matters.
And this is why it's so cool, because you guys don't necessarily realize it yet. What you will come to realize is that you didn't get into real estate investing. You got into entrepreneurship. You are creating a business, right? You're not buying a franchise. Real estate investing is not buying a McDonald's that already has everything set up for you. There are some tips, but you got to make your strategic decisions that make sense for your place in life, right? So we all know the we all know the win is the contract. But what type of win are you going to get from that? Is it going to be through mailers or cold calling or whatever? Do the one that you will do. Another great takeaway from that speech that I was bagging on earlier is very true. You got to think of your business in quarters. You got to say, when you're starting a marketing campaign, you got to give it 2 quarters before you're going to say that thing is a failure. And you got to also understand that the national average right now in marketing that gets spent per close is about $5,500. So if you spent $400 on a mailing piece and you didn't get a deal, that's about right. You know what I mean? It takes money and time if you're doing mailing to get that out there. So just understanding that and pushing forward with it and being consistent about the actions that you are taking. Now, every day, let's land the plane with talking back about his list, because that is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And here's what I want you guys to do. Same thing that I asked last week. Who in here, watching now, is willing to be held accountable by somebody else in the community for their RGAs over this next few weeks? Okay?
It's going to be a good one.
Let's comment here. Say something along the lines of, I want to be held accountable. I'm here. I'm ready. Who's with me? Something like that. Let us know who in here watching is willing to be held accountable by somebody else in the community over this next couple of weeks. Because the way that you understand your RGA is, we all agree on the simple, the win is the contract. Because as Daniel has said before, and I love this phrase, what do you say? Good money chases good money? Something like that?
Makes sense.
If you have a contract, somebody will help you close that. You don't have to have the team. You don't have to have wholesale buyers. You don't have to know how to do any disposition. If you get a good contract, you can take that to a more experienced investor and JV with them on it. You can wholesale it. You can do whatever. All that stuff will happen. Good money chases good deals, right? So you focus on the contract and you find how you're going to get there. Now, every day, you have to ask yourself and be very deliberate on what you're going to do for that day that says, today I'm going to do this, which is going to help me lead to a contract tomorrow, okay? This is where your have to, need to, and want to list comes into play, because your have to is your RGAs. Once you get done with those RGAs is when you can move on to those other ones. But if your RGAs take your full day up, hallelujah, you've got a good thing going because you spent an entire day on stuff that could make you money. That's pretty awesome. It doesn't matter that you didn't build your Propelio out, or you didn't put in your email system or order your business cards or any of this crap that doesn't make you money. You spent a whole day making you money, right? So what I need people in the community who are willing to pour into the community. So I've got a couple of people here. Lazuli, she's actually one of our creative executives. I love Lazuli. Her and her husband David are super cool. William and Lazuli from YouTube. Reach out to each other. Y'all might want to actually, through the Propelio Facebook group, go join the Propelio Facebook group. We'll try to make a post on here that says who's willing to be held accountable for their RGAs. And then, we can pair some people up inside of there, find people and DM them. And then every other day for the next week or two, I want you guys to get on the phone, literally get on the phone and talk to each other and say, what are your RGAs for today? What were your RGAs for yesterday? And did you accomplish those, right? Write them out. Because you've got to be diligent. The thing that humans, and you pointed this out perfectly in your first analogy here, the thing that humans have a problem with is recency bias. We think that the most recent thing that we have thought of that is an issue is the biggest priority, and unless you just write it down on an issues list, which is exactly the right move, what Daniel said in segment 1, write it down. Reapproach that the next day and say, is that really my priority? 2 days from now, reapproach it. I suffer from that. I told you last week, I've got a 4-tier system for my projects inside of my system. Tier 1 is business is hindered. Tier 2 is this is a financial impact, but we can still do business. Tier 3 is priority enhancement. And then Tier 4 is just straight up wish list. It would be nice if. Right?
So I kind of structured mine in a similar way.
Yeah.
So I didn't have it broken down just like that, but it was a very similar path.
Very similar.
So,
but what I was going to, just to land that one more statement, the thing I was going to say is, even I, who is very conscious of this, and I'm teaching it to people, I go through my list of to-dos every week or two, and I pull 20% of the things out of Tier 2, and I'm like, that's really a Tier 3 or Tier 4. Mm-hmm. But when you think of it, right at first, you're like, this is a big deal, right?
Right. So that makes a lot of sense. And in a lot of ways, I would like to see everybody from within the community start applying that into their business. What I would like to do, we are moving into the hour. I'd like to throw a couple of things in there. We've focused a big chunk of this on stage 0. Mm-hmm. Stage 0 is you got to get out there and get the contract. You got to get out there and get that contract closed. These are the things you need to be doing to get to contract. Reverse engineer that. We've reverse engineered deal number 1 for stage 0 that has never done a deal. If you've never done a deal, that is your end goal. End goal is a contract. let's start putting out a little bit of value for the stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 people. For those of you that have stuck around through this stage 1, 3, 2, 3, 4 people that have done one deal before, already understand what it takes to get that first deal done. Let me help show you what we're looking at from a different standpoint of breaking that down and pulling it back from an RGA standpoint. Now, we've talked about yearly goals. We've broken it back down to quarterly goals. Let's talk about this. You want to make $500,000 this year. Let's even pull it back to something that is very, very obtainable for a semi-novice wholesaler / real estate investor to do. Let's bring that back down to that 200K mark. That should be an area that you should be able to hit. 150 to 200K is an area you should be able to hit with a small to no team. 150 to 200K. If I want to do 200,000 in revenue this year as a stage 1, 2, 3, if I want to do 200,000 a year, let's take a look at my historic deals. What revenue did I receive from those deals, and what types of deals were they, and where did I get them from? I now have at least some level of metric to start breaking my year down from. If I do a wholesale and it says I make 10,000 off that wholesale for easy math, and I want to do 200,000 in revenue, I need to knock down 20 wholesale deals, and let's say they were all done for free marketing to simplify it.
Right.
I now know that I need to do 20 wholesale deals this year to achieve my goal. That now broken down to a quarter means I got to do 5 wholesale transactions per quarter. Well, if I know that I can do 5 wholesale transactions per quarter, what is it going to take to get one of those deals knocked down? And what we're going to do is we're going to break our year down backwards. I'm going to take a look at my revenue goal, see what I have to do each quarter to hit that revenue goal, and then I'm going to look at my deals that I've done in the past. Let's say I've done 10 of them and I average out at 10,000 per wholesale deal. I now need to look at what activities it took to get that deal. If I am using free marketing activities such as driving for dollars, I knew to get those 10 deals, I had to drop 1,200 pins on my Driving for Dollars app. If I know it takes 1,200 pins to get one deal, then I know if I need to do 5 deals in a quarter, I need to be dropping around 6,000 to 6,200 pins on my map to get my deal. So this is what I'm talking about for everybody out there that's done at least one deal, done 2 or 3 deals, but they're struggling with consistency. The way you generate consistency within your business is one of the things that you introduced to me and that I learned as I got further into the business, because I was a batshit crazy person. KPIs.
Yeah.
I really need to know what my KPIs are. I really need to know what my revenue generating activities are, and they should all be measured from KPIs.
KPI stands for key performance indicator, by the way. This is a thing, like for instance, my acquisitions guy has a KPI of 20 outbound phone calls a day. He has to dial the phone 20 times every day, and if he doesn't meet that, he's not doing his job, right? So that's an example of a KPI, because we have recognized that there's about a 20% conversion rate on his calls to new sellers. So if he's making 20 outbound phone calls, generally half of those phone calls are new sellers, half of them are follow-ups. Then that means we've got 10 new sellers. We should be getting a contract or 2 every day, right? So that's an example of a KPI. We've got one number that if you blow that out means something larger. So his one number that's being blown out now is 1,200 pins on the map. You see what we're saying?
And that's where I need everybody to focus on that has done the 1 to 10 deals and they're struggling with consistency. The consistency problem that you're going to be experiencing there is you're not hitting your KPIs because you don't know what they are. You're just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that you get a contract out of it. If you're throwing stuff against the wall and hoping you're getting a contract out of it, you're going to get waves of income. You're not going to see consistency within your business. To see consistency within your business, you need to look at your revenue goal for the end of the year. You need to have some level of metric to understand how you generated that in the past. If you've done some deals, you can now understand what those were, and then start breaking those down into a quarterly revenue goal. And then to match that quarterly revenue goal, you need to figure out how many deals need to be applied to hit that goal. And then once you know how many deals need to be applied to hit that goal, you now need to know what activities must be done to get that contract.
Yep.
And if you're not breaking that down and keeping that front and center with you every single day, I'm a whiteboard guy. Like I technology and everything else, I have a whiteboard in front of my desk at all times because every time I'm at my desk and I look up, it's there. Look up, it's there. Look up, it's there. It's constantly reminding me. And if I can see what I'm supposed to be doing up there in front of me every day, which is 1,200 pins on the map, I'm now looking at a whiteboard and I'm not in a car. And if I'm not in a car, then I'm not getting those 1,200 pins. So it's a reminder to tell you to get your ass up and get in the car.
I love it.
It's important.
That's so cool, man. And that is some of the best, that is just great business advice, guys. So take that to heart. Here, I've got an idea, right? We got a bunch of people watching. You guys tell me, would you like a series? Like we like doing like kind of mini series. We just got done with a series on the cycles of the market. What if we did a series of how do I get from stage 0 to stage 1? How do I get from stage 1 to stage 2? How do I get from stage 2 to stage 3? That kind of thing, right? So we can give you some ideas of like some hey, if you've done fewer than 10 deals, this is how you get up to 10 deals. If you've done 10 to 25 deals, this is how you get to 50 deals, right? Maybe that would be a good idea. If you would like to see something like that, please hit us in the comments and say that you'd enjoy that. Give us some likes, give us some hearts, that kind of thing. Matt asks a question. What do you think about copying someone else who is where you want to be? And I will just say, I think that is the best thing that you can do. I think that there's a I can't remember who it is. I think it's Yo-Yo Ma that said this. Isn't he the cellist, the famous cello player? I think it was him. Anyway, it was a very famous like concert somethingist, violin, cello, whatever, who said, I don't know the time for it. I spent 15 years learning all the rules, and then I spent the rest of my life learning how to break them. Okay? I think that that's a very astute way to think about a lot of things. I would not be here if I hadn't recognized somebody who was where I wanted to be. In my case, it was Scott Horn, and bugged the hell out of him until I proved to him I wasn't just, because I'll tell you what, I get a million emails all the time of, can I take you out to coffee? Can I do this? Can I do that? Oh, I'm super jazzed. And then they burn out and, never talk. I bugged this guy for 6 months, and then he was finally like, fine, come into the office. You've proven to me that. And then we worked together, and I got to mimic him, and he mentored me through that, and I bought a ton of houses. Now, then, 9 years into my career, I had this aha moment of, hey man, it's 2019. If I knew nothing about how every other company ran their business, I knew nothing about anything else other than what's in my head, what would I do to buy houses? And so we scrapped everything and we started from scratch, and now we're contracting a house or two a day. And this is on our test budget of we're spending about $2,000 a week in marketing. That is not a lot.
That is a slim budget.
To contract 1 to 2 houses every day, right?
That's
because solid. I got to learn the rules for 9 years, and then I got to say, let's forget them. Let's do what we're going to do for the future.
I do love that. I do. And I would like to throw a caveat to what Matt Smith was saying. Mm-hmm. Matt Smith was asking, should I just go out there and find somebody that's already doing what I'm doing so that I can copy them? Absolute sound advice. I'd resonate that all day long with a caveat. People will have their vein of expertise.
Yeah.
People will have their things that they're just going to excel at. They're going to be very good at that. So if you're looking as a solopreneur that does not have the ability to go out and employ a team of people around you, do not just look at somebody that's killing it and say, I can copy them, because you might be trying to copy their vein of expertise that you do not employ, and you're going to put yourself as a fish trying to climb a tree.
Well,
go ahead,
sorry.
You need to find somebody, if you are going that path and you do not have the ability to employ people that can fill roles that you do not fill in yourself, you need to find somebody that has a mindset similar to yours, that has a natural gift that is similar to yours, and mimic their path, because it's going to be the one that's natural for you to obtain. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've seen a lot of people do is they will see glitz and glam flashed, and they'll hear about how easy that is, and they'll drop $30,000 saying, all I have to do is hear what this man's done and I'll be able to do it. Yeah. That is not the case for almost all people. There will be a few people that will fit a similar vein of natural expertise that person obtains, and they will be able to mimic and take off with it, but that's only 1 to 2% of the 98 that followed along. You need to make sure that the person you pick is someone that you feel like you can resonate with and actually copy. Because if I'm going to tell you, you know what? I make millions of dollars cold calling all day long. I make 17,000 calls with my team every single day. I've got 900 employees. I make billions of dollars. Great. But if you're not feasibly going to be the person that's going to be able to put that together, you need to find the person that you can mimic until you at least have the revenue to put around you to create the same business model.
Very wise. And I would also add to that caveat, because that's a very loaded question there too, of we're not just going to find somebody and copy them for those reasons. I would also encourage you to look more towards community than single input. I have found that the community aspect of education is much more powerful if you can be around other people that are in your stage of career and more advanced and possibly led by somebody. So if you can't tell where I'm going with that, that's where masterminds come into play, right? So I'm a big believer in the mastermind. I spend almost $50,000 a year to be in 2 different masterminds, and I'm me. I've done a lot, right? Because you have to be around people who, we aren't just going to copy somebody, because somebody only wants to tell you all their successes and show you the Lambo and not show you all the reality of the. So if you're going to copy somebody, you need to make sure it's going to be somebody, you're copying somebody who is an open book, who is genuine, who's going to be just as happy to tell you about their failures and their failures aren't like the interview question of like, well, what's your biggest weakness? Oh, I just work too hard, right? Like that, like real failures, like we've screwed this up. I have troubles here, that, and the other. And get into a group. My mastermind exists. The Creative Executives is out there. I'm not saying we're the only one. I'm not saying we're necessarily the best one. I think we're the best one. I think we're the best for most people who are in the stage 1 area. But like Litzuli's in there. Josh Dees, who was here a couple of weeks ago, he's in there. Sonia's going to be joining. We've got a bunch of we got people in there to own freaking, 15, 20 H&R blocks. We got people who've built multi-million-dollar oil businesses. You need to be around people who are business folks and can get you where you want to go. And do yourself a favor. If you're going to go copy somebody, do not copy somebody who got into this business after Q1 of 2015, because they only know how to make money in one market. You need to know from somebody who can tell you how to make money in this next market, as well as how to make money in a strong market, what to do there. So if you're interested in joining my mastermind, which again is not the only one, is not, whatever. Jamie Woolley has one. I think RJ Bates has one.
Mike Hambright has one.
Mike Hambright has one.
Gary Harper has one.
Gary Harper has one. It's an important thing to get into these things. Our price is going up on Thanksgiving. Right now it's $17,000. It's going to go up to $25,000. And our next mastermind is in January. It's a quarterly meeting, and we do a weekly. I do a deal analysis workshop every week. We do a Zoom call on Thursday where we just chop up deals. And I just show you how to chop up deals in super crazy ways and try to blow your mind and tell you how you can make money on deals that you shouldn't be able to make money on. This next one, Ronnie's actually going to be flying in, and he's going to spend all day 1, teaching on marketing, pulling lists, how to run KPIs, and how to run operations. And then days 2 and 3, we'll get to dive into your business and help you through whatever your biggest problems are. So consider something like that. If you're going to copy somebody, get into a group necessarily, or get in with somebody who is where you want to be and is a open book, fully open booked. Okay. That said, let's land this plane a little bit. Let's not forget that all of this happens because of Propelio. Everything that you're watching right here is in front of you because Propelio has decided that it was worth their investment and time and efforts to put together an education system that can get you where you need to go. That's why we're so incredibly dedicated to finding out what stage you're in, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you want to see, so that we can help you get to where your ultimate goals are. And it's all supported by the fact that Propelio is a piece of software that does everything you need to be in stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. I still use Propelio every day. My team, and we're, like I said, we're contracting right now with our test budget, with our, hey, I think I'm going to throw it all away. I'm going to recreate it. We're 1 month in. We are averaging a contract or 2 a day. And we are still using Propelio as our system for comping, as our system for kind of keeping things organized inside of there. So I really encourage you. It is a steal. You get websites. You get leads list. We didn't even talk about the leads list. You know what your first step of your RGA, if you're not going to be driving for dollars, is friggin' log into Propelio.com and download some of the leads list. They've just made it national. It's ridiculous the kind of information that you can get off of there as part of just being a member. You can stack the leads. They've got skip tracing coming up for you. And then you have the ability to hold it in their CRM, to have some organization about it, which I went over with you guys last week. The Driving for Dollars app. I mean, it's just a ridiculous value for you. So go to Propelio.com. You can try it out. You can get in for free, 7-day free trial. Put your email in there, and guess what? You get to download. Do you get to download? You get to download leads.
5,000 a day. So 35,000 free leads.
35,000 free leads. Right there, guys. I can't tell you how much that's going to be valuable to you. I am right now actively, I don't know, raising awareness about our mastermind, the Creative Executives Group. We are, like I said, going to be having the price go up on Thanksgiving. If you are in whatever stage of your career, I have found that my niche is people who've done fewer than 10 deals, trying to get you into becoming a professional, consistent real estate investor. Everybody in the group has done under 25 deals, except for us, right, who've done hundreds, and we're trying to get you guys up to that level. If you're interested in joining a group like that, please reach out to me or comment here and tag me at Grant Kemp so that we can chat, see if it's a good fit for you. Not everybody gets in, but we want to make sure that everybody that would be a good fit does get in and get the opportunity to take their career to that next stage. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we head out?
I'm feeling good on my side. For everybody that's out there watching, I just want to see y'all get to the next level. I appreciate you tuning in. Much love to every one of you.
Absolutely. See you guys next week.